One Bucky Brooks joining us here as well, our downtime is just about over, Bucky, because training camps are starting quickly. As a matter of fact, they've already started in a couple of places. But thanks for giving us some time. We appreciate it. Wanted to begin with one of the recent write-ups you had on NFL.com about some players that you believe are going to break out in 2025. And for the Bills, you picked Keon Coleman. I don't know if this is because you, too, were once a second-round pick of the Bills, much like Keon Coleman. But maybe just enlighten us a little bit as to what has you bullish on Keon in year two.
Most of the improvement that guys make, the biggest jump is between their first year and second year. Coming into their rookie season, there are a bunch of unknowns. You don't really know the NFL game. The team doesn't fully know you, your strengths, your weaknesses, and all those things. It's one thing to speculate and evaluate. It's another thing to have you in the building and to watch. Now that everyone knows and is on the same page, you can really make some targeted development in terms of certain areas that you want to improve upon and those things. And so for Keon Coleman, being able to settle in and being a dominant receiver on the outside, as Josh Allen becomes more comfortable with him and looks to push the ball down the field and lean into the things that he provides as a red zone weapon, a jump ball specialist. To me, I just envision Keon Coleman having a bigger role, having more production because his teams lean into trying to slow down Khalil Shakur and some of the other guys. Keon Coleman is going to win those one-on-one matchups on the outside.
So we got last year at this time, the Bills were expected to take a kind of a massive step back. You thought the Jets would be better. You thought the Dolphins would be better. And I think they exceeded expectations, obviously, last year, particularly offensively. What are you surprised, or how big is a surprise, and how much better could they be with this stable of wide receivers? I mean, Matt Collins is a good player, but Elijah Moore and Joshua Palmer have a little bit better pedigrees than Mac did coming in. They had to make a midseason trade for Amari Cooper to kind of bolster him up. How much higher expectations are there for this team just because of particularly what they proved last year in a year where they were supposed to take a step back and got to the conference championship?
Well, I think a lot of it, the expectations go up now because Josh Allen played at an MVP level. And what's funny is, right, we talk about him being one of the great quarterbacks in this league, already regarded as elite. Some would say maybe he is QB1 in the league. He took a cast of unknowns and unheralded playmakers and got this offense to play at a high level. You would think that when you add in more weapons, more firepower around him, this offense will go to an even higher level, which is kind of crazy to think an offense that is hitting 30 points each week can even improve. I think the big thing is this offense goes as Josh goes. And as Josh has really matured into not only an elite player, but one of the best leaders in the league, this offense follows his lead. And I just think the sky is the limit for this team just because they're so talented. The quarterback is really good and he's wired the right way. To me, that consistency that you see from the team and the offense, a lot of it has to do with Josh Allen and his maturation process.
I'm curious for your thoughts here because we saw more 12 personnel from the Bills last year. We even saw a lot of that jumbo package with Alec Anderson on the field as a sixth offensive lineman or a jumbo tight end, whatever you want to call him. But Kincaid was hampered by injuries last year in year two and took a big step back in terms of production. Would you be shocked if you saw similar breakout production from him in the way you're expecting from Coleman?
I would not. Last year when we had the list, I had Kincaid on the list because that was the expectation that he would break out. He had a great rookie season, and so you naturally expect him to kind of build upon it. It didn't happen the way they wanted to, but what they did is they found other aspects and other facets of their offense that will make him even that much harder to defend in 2025. The thing about Kincaid and Knox and going 12 personnel is it really puts the defense in the bind. Do you play regular personnel and deal with the linebacker having a matchup with one of those tight ends? Or do you put nickel in and then they run you off the field with James Cook and others in the backfield? It is a way for Joe Brady to dictate the terms to the defense, but then to continue to stay one step ahead of them in the chess game. I love what it looks like, but I also like the fact that they've upgraded the wide receiver room. They really can attack you in a bunch of different areas, and the best offenses can get at you in a few different ways, and the Buffalo Bills certainly have a bunch of different avenues where they can attack.
One of the other things that interested me in your content and all the stuff you've been writing about was the 5 NFL teams that really won the offseason. And I know it's a little bit of an esoteric title, but there are some teams who really did some things, and a couple of them really mean something to the Buffalo Bills, one of which, of course, is the Baltimore Ravens. You had them, and you've got some high expectations for the Ravens, I read, and also the other one are the New England Patriots. I know you also had Chicago, Washington, and the Raiders on that list as well, but focus on the Baltimore Ravens and the New England Patriots, because those are two teams that are right on the front burner of the Bills season.
Well, obviously, we talk about, like, even though they're not division rivals, they're conference rivals, and some of that rivalry stems from the fact that the quarterbacks, same draft class, a lot of similarities in terms of their level of success. Both have won MVPs. Both have won a significant amount of their games since being starting quarterbacks. And we all know that the road in the AFC requires you to go through the gauntlet of quarterbacks. And so the Ravens always have their eye on the Bills. The Bills certainly have their eye on the Ravens. They've upgraded the roster, and I would say they have a little older roster than the Buffalo Bills. And so it feels like it's a now and never situation for the Baltimore Ravens in terms of going all in to try and make that elusive run at a title, because they've added the firepower. You bring in DeAndre Hopkins, some of the other guys that they brought in via the draft, they should be ready to go. And so there's a lot of pressure on them because they made the upgrades, even with Yari Alexander coming over. But can they play their best ball when it matters? We've seen them run through the regular season time and time again, but we know the game is different when you get into January and February. Can they execute at a high level despite having one of the best rosters in football?
You touched on that influx of youth, particularly on the defensive side of the ball for the Bills. They are unquestionably a younger defense than what the Ravens are fielding this year. I don't even think that's a debate. We've seen Sean McDermott and his staff excel in player development, and not every organization in this league has that. And so while I think we can say, at least from this side of the television and radio, that there is more talent on the defensive side of the ball, there's some potential to be reached with that group. The Bills have shown an ability to pull that kind of stuff together. They did it last year with a big turnover on the roster, granted with not as much youth as they have facing them now. What do you think is realistic for McDermott and his crew on the defensive side of the ball to pull a lot of that youth together and, in a couple of cases, get them on the field early, knowing you have a Michael Hoyt and a Larry Ogunjobi serving 6-game suspensions at the outset?
Yeah, the one thing about the Buffalo Bills, they've been very, very consistent. And one of the things that helps them when it comes to development of young players is the continuity. Not a lot of staff turnover, not a lot of turnover in the building. And so everyone sees the game through the same vision. So the players that are brought in, Brandon Beane and company, bring in the right players. And Sean McDermott is not afraid to play the young players. The system is a sound, solid system. It allows young players to jump on the field because they can play and play freely. And I'll just say this, man, there are different levels to it when it comes to coaching. And you have one of the best head coaches in the game, Sean McDermott, who has a really, really good staff. He's hard on them, but man, they get the best out of their players. And when you have a staff full of teachers who embrace coaching young players, that's when you get the best out of those young players, because coaches can do one or two things. They can complain about what the players can't do, or they can get to work and really focus on what they can do. The Bills prefer to do the latter. They put these guys in a position to succeed. That's why they've been so successful the last few years.
So at this time of year, we're on the cusp of finding out exactly which of the new head coaching hires, the three, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Mike Vrabel back in the league at head coach. Which of the new play callers and the quarterbacks, which one do you think, which situation do you think has the most potential for hitting it right away?
Well, going around the league, everyone's just going to say Chicago because of Ben Johnson having an opportunity to go with the #1 overall pick. It's still a wait-and-see situation because this game is not just about collecting talent. It's putting together the right team. And so can all those puzzle pieces fit with Ben Johnson being your first-time head coach and play caller? That's a lot to manage at one time, managing the team and trying to get your offense right. But I'll say the one because we talk about the division. And I didn't talk about it earlier when you asked the question, but the New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel bringing over Josh McDaniels to work with Drake May. and what that looks like because it's a brand new roster that he's inheriting. And anyone who knows Mike Vrabel and the teams that he had when he was in Tennessee doesn't look aesthetically pleasing in terms of what they have and how they play, but you're always guaranteed to be in one of those fourth quarter battles. They're going to make it tough on people, even though they may not be the most talented roster. They're going to be very competitive. And then the other person I'm going to talk about is Aaron Glenn with the Jets. Aaron Glenn being a part of that startup, that makeover in Detroit, taking those lessons and the Bill Parcells stuff that he learned along the way as a player, coaching. The Jets team are going to be a tougher team. So this division becomes very, very difficult because you got really good coaches, you have gritty teams. And look, when I went to Buffalo in '94, I'll never forget seeing all those division banners hanging up there and that team being the envy of the division. Well, it's back. And so the Bills have a target on their back. And so they have to gear up to deal with the defenders that are coming in that division.
The one team in the division you did not mention was Miami, Bucky, and this is the last one I'll have for you. I don't know if you can characterize them as a gritty team. As a matter of fact, some former players from that team who now play elsewhere weren't afraid to characterize the team as soft even. Mike McDaniel appears to have a little bit of a culture problem in terms of relying on player-driven leadership there, and two of their best leaders, Javon Holland and Teron Armstead, are no longer there. How dangerous and how much on a tightrope could Mike McDaniel be this year? Because I 2 or 3 game losing streak there, I wouldn't be stunned if that team completely implodes. How worried are you about their prospects?
I'm worried because all the things that you hear about the Miami Dolphins are troubling. When you talk about players and the culture or the lack thereof, that stuff is hard to overcome when you want to play at a championship level, which is what they have title aspirations. And then when you have a mass exodus of players, which sometimes addition by subtraction is good, but they're not the same team. And you couple the fact that they play like a warm weather team that can only play in the comfy confines of being in South Florida. Well, that makes it very, very hard to go on like a serious title chase when you think about all the good teams and where they're located and how they play. To me, the Miami Dolphins, first, they have to embrace a different style in terms of they can do the fun and gun stuff that they like to do. But at some point, this game is still a physical game. And even the most finesse teams have to be able to turn it on when we get into December and January, particularly if you're going through Buffalo. You're not going to be able to throw the ball all through the air. You're going to have to be able to get rugged. You're going to have to play a style that, look, most teams have to adopt when you get to playoff football. And right now, the Miami Dolphins aren't constructed to play that way. Maybe it changes over the course of the year, but right now, they look like a team that's on the outside looking in.
Last one for me, Bucky. We all know Josh Allen MVP, Lamar 2-time MVP, Mahomes. Even Saquon Barkley was in the conversation a year ago. You have a dark horse for somebody who might step up and say, oh, my gosh, that guy's actually playing at that level. Anybody who's off our radar that may bust out like that to that extent?
Well, I think the guy that you have to talk about potentially being an MVP would be the young quarterback that took the league by storm last year, and that would be Jaden Daniels. When you think about the Washington Commanders and what they were last year, the fact that he was able to help them get to 12 wins and an appearance in the NFC title game, man, that puts them squarely on the radar. And then you think about the upgrades. They take a former Buffalo Bill and Von Miller, add him to a defense where they're looking for him maybe to be a closer to turn back the clock. But Jaden Daniels is someone who, and I'll say this, and I'm really being honest, like he might be the best dual threat quarterback that we've seen enter this league in terms of being a dynamic runner who is also a polished pocket passer. It's different to do the things where you're more athlete than quarterback, but he is a quarterback who is also a great athlete, led the league in yards per rush, second in scrambling yard. I mean, this dude is terrific when he escapes the pocket, but he also has the poise, the patience, and discipline to deal from the pocket. Talented quarterback who has upgrades on the outside with Debo joining Terry McLaurin, Larry Tunsil. Very talented team in Washington. He could be the beneficiary as an MVP candidate.
Bucky, thanks for the time as always. We know you don't have much downtime left, so enjoy what you have left because we're going to be cranking it up here not too soon. So thanks for the time as always. We appreciate it.
Hey, man, thanks so much for having me on, guys.